It all begins in the Winchester, a traditional London pub. Sean, his girlfriend Liz and her two friends David and Diane are socializing while the overweight and foul-mouthed slacker, Ed, plays away on the slot machine. Liz is trying to encourage Sean to strengthen their relationship and be more adventurous, rather than just reminiscing in the pub and hanging out all day. Liz reminds Sean how she hasn't even met his mother yet, though they've been together for more than 2 years. Inside his house, Sean wakes up and joins Ed in the living room where he joins in a video game on the PlayStation. Ed reminds Sean that he has to go to work and Sean grudgingly goes to get ready. While Sean is getting ready, his second flatmate and college buddy, Pete, confronts him about Ed's behavior. Pete is fed up with Ed sitting around all day, feeding off them and not bothering to find a job. Sean defends Ed by saying he's harmless and fun to have around. Both Pete and Sean leave for work, with Sean asking Ed to take down any phone messages that come through the house's phone during the day. Just as Sean leaves, Liz calls to leave a message for Sean, asking him to book their restaurant dinner 1 hour earlier. Ed obviously doesn't hear the message. Sean takes notice of a series of bizarre events, including newspaper headlines describing attacks on members of the public, people collapsing at bus stops, and television news reports of more attacks and military involvement. Sean arrives at work, an electronics retail shop, where he is manager. Sean's stepdad, Philip, pays him a visit to remind him of his bi-monthly visit to his mum. The pair have a very awkward relationship and Sean clearly does not like his stepfather. Later, when Sean is purchasing flowers for his visit to his mum, he notices a homeless man outside staggering and trying to eat the pigeons, before vanishing when a bus cuts across the scene. On his way home, Sean bumps into his old flame Yvonne. She asks how he's getting on with Liz, which triggers his memory about booking the table for that evening. He immediately hurries home as he desperately tries to call the restaurant to change the time to an hour earlier, only to hear that they are fully booked. Liz then calls him and Sean explains that he forgot all about it, then suggests maybe they go to the local pub, the Winchester. This prompts Liz to immediately hang up. Sean grabs the flowers he'd bought for his mother and makes his way down to Liz's flat in an attempt to make amends with her. At first Liz refuses to let him in, so he tries to scale the wall outside and come in through her window. She eventually relents and lets Sean into the flat, where she immediately launches into a tirade, listing all the promises Sean's broken, and telling him how she's tired of putting up with a relationship that's clearly going nowhere. In her rage she breaks up with him as David and Diane stand by awkwardly. That evening, Sean meets with Ed and they spend the night joking and drinking heavily. A figure outside the pub batters against the window and moans, to which Ed simply retorts, "Pisshead." Drunk and still singing, the duo make their way outside. Not noticing a zombie teenage girl tearing someone's head off, they mock another moaning zombie thinking it's just a drunk guy and make their way back home. They continue to sing and play loud techno music until Pete storms downstairs in a rage at being woken up by the noise. Ed notices that Pete's hand is bandaged and Pete tells him that a crackhead bit him and he has a splitting headache. He shouts at them one last time for leaving the front door open, again, and returns to his room. The next morning arrives and Sean decides to go walk down to the corner shop for a drink. Still hungover from the previous night's drinking, Sean is completely unaware of the carnage surrounding him: smashed cars, blood-stained floors and windows, corpses lying on sidewalks and front porches, police and ambulance sirens in the distance, and hordes of zombies slowly flooding the streets. Kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel to support our work and also get updated on new content. Thank you. Back at the flat, Sean skips through the TV channels, past entertainment channels and news reports of the incidents. Ed, looking out of the window, tells Sean there's a girl in their garden. Out in the garden, they try and get the teenage girl's attention. When she turns around, she is a deathly pale, white-eyed zombie. They think she's drunk, until she attacks them. Thinking that she's just a nuisance, Sean pushes her back and she trips and falls into a metal stump. Sean and Ed are seen looking very shocked as the zombie girl slowly stands up as if nothing has happened. Panicking, they choose to go back inside only to be confronted by another male zombie. They make it past him and return to the safety of the house. Back inside, the shaken Sean and Ed are finally aware at what is going on and they are now watching the TV news reports advising people to contain anyone who has been bitten. At this point Sean and Ed then remember Pete and the bite he claimed to have gotten from a crackhead the previous day. They call upstairs to him, but get no response. Sean then tries to call Liz but can't get through. His mum, Barbara, then calls him. She tells him that some men were trying to attack her and Philip outside their house, but only Philip was bitten, much to Sean's relief. Sean and Ed then go through plans to rescue his mum and Liz, kill Philip, and then seek shelter at the Winchester. Preparing to leave, Sean goes to the toilet, only to discover a naked and zombified Pete in the shower. Wasting no more time, Sean and Ed head outside to Pete's car, only to attract the attention of every zombie outside on the street. They make it to Philip's and Barbara's house and screech to a halt outside. Philip's Jaguar immediately catches Ed's eye and he convinces Sean to let him wait in the car as a lookout. Inside, Barbara greets Sean warmly and makes him tea. Sean goes to kill the already infected Philip while Barbara is distracted. He finds Philip hasn't become a zombie yet, but is very ill. After some discussion, Sean convinces them to come with him and Ed as they are planning on seeking shelter at the Winchester. Outside, Ed has intentionally crashed Pete's car so they can ride in Philip's Jaguar. As they get into the Jaguar, another zombie attacks and bites Philip in the neck. The four quickly get in the car and drive to Liz's apartment building. At Liz's flat, Sean tells Ed to stay outside in the car on lookout again. Dozens of zombies are swarming outside, and Sean dispatches them quickly with his cricket bat and makes his way to the front door. When he gets cornered again, he makes his way into the flat by climbing up to the 4th floor window. Inside, Sean convinces Liz, David, and Diane to come with him to the Winchester for safety. The four make their way outside, clubbing the zombies to get to the car. It's here that Sean finally introduces Liz to his mum. On the way, Ed is intentionally mowing down every zombie he can. Philip, while bleeding profusely, tells Sean he loves him before he dies. Sean, in an emotional state, orders Ed to pull over and tells Barbara that Philip is dead. She looks and says, "No, he isn't." Sean then panics as he sees that Philip has instantly become a zombie, and shouts for everyone to get out of the car. Out in the open and vulnerable, the 6 of them head for a shortcut, making their way through the back alleys of the local houses. They bump into Yvonne and another group of 5 people who are also trying to survive. After some quick talk, Sean and Yvonne embrace before parting ways. They start to pass through the back gardens. When they come to a garden where the Winchester is just over the other side, Sean sees that his mum is missing from the team, and quickly jumps back to find her. He sees another zombie. Lisa and Diane join in to help, passing a tennis pole to use as a weapon. Sean then impales the zombie against a tree, stopping it from moving although not killing it. Sean checks over the fence to see if the coast is clear, only to discover that there are hundreds of the undead swarming the street in front of the Winchester. He has an idea. Diane is an actress in training, so she coaches the other 5 to mimic the movement of the zombie so they can sneak through the crowds of unsuspected. At first the plan seems to work. The group tries to get into the building only to realize that the pub is closed and locked up. Then Ed completely gives them away when he just cannot resist answering his mobile phone and starts chatting. Sean knocks away the phone and scolds Ed for putting everyone's lives at risk. He ceases when he sees that all the zombies have turned their attention to the group. Aware that the game is up, David quickly throws a trash bin through the window, smashing the glass, for everyone to get inside. To make sure the zombies don't follow them, Sean creates a distraction and gets the zombies to chase him. Hours pass and Sean has not returned. David suggests blocking up the shattered window since the street in front of the pub is still deserted, but Liz is insistent that Sean will return, leading to David complaining about the entire situation they are in. Sean eventually makes it back and the group manages to board up the front shattered window and secure the locked doors. Night falls, and the group of 6 are bored, so they decide to see there's anything on the TV. As there's no electricity in the pub, Sean goes into the back room to turn on the main circuit breakers. When he turns the lights on, he's shocked to discover that the zombies have followed him back and are massing outside the back door. Back in the main pub, both the local and major TV channels are broadcasting only "stay tuned" screens. Sean whispers that the zombies followed him back, and they agree to keep very quiet. However, Ed, being stupid as usual, messes it up again by turning on a noisy video slot machine. Zombies now surround the outside of the pub in the front and back entrances and battering at the doors to get inside. Just then, the zombie pub landlord crawls into attack. Sean, Ed, and Liz all grab pool cues and club the zombie. Diane joins in by throwing darts at the zombie, only for one to land in Sean's head. Ed tosses the Winchester repeating rifle from the bar to Sean and kills the zombie by smashing its head through the jukebox. Packed together, the group join to defend against the masses of the undead. As they start to charge through the front windows, Sean fires but misses severally, except when Ed calls out the same way they do in their video games. Diane notices something's wrong with Barbara and goes to her aid. She reluctantly reveals that she was bitten by a zombie earlier, but has kept it quiet so as not to worry Sean and the others. Everyone in the group comes to her need except for David, who's been left with the rifle. Barbara thanks Sean for the flowers, then collapses dead in his arms. David cocks the gun and aims for Barbara, coldly saying it has to be done before she zombifies and attacks them. Sean explodes in a fit of rage, holds a broken bottle to his neck and threatens him to stop aiming at her. It all ends just as quickly when Barbara rises as a zombie. Sean takes the gun, emotionally apologizes to his mum, and shoots her dead. When David says he did the right thing, Sean retaliates by punching him. David tries to shoot Sean, only for the gun to run out of shells. He then decides to leave, and just then, zombies smash through the window and pull David through, completely dismembering him. Diane irrationally opens the front door and charges for the zombies in a blind effort to save David. Her fate is left unknown, although we think she also was eaten by the zombies. The zombies break into the pub at all corners, including Pete, much to everyone's surprise. Pete and others swarm over Ed and bite into him, and Sean shoots Pete in the head, finishing him off. Sean and Liz then jump over the bar and hide behind it, dousing the bar with brandy and setting it afire. Ed, severely wounded, makes it over the bar to join them. The box of rifle shells was left in the burning mess, and they begin to explode, adding to the fire. With only 2 shells to spare, the 3 survivors make their way into the cellar, and find a lift down there that will lead to the outdoors. With the lift and the trapdoor not working, the remaining 3 are trapped in the cellar as the building is now on fire. Sean contemplates the last 2 shells for Liz and himself. They share a last cigarette between them, only to see the power switch for the lift when they light up. Sean tries to get Ed to come with him, but Ed knows he's done for anyway as he's bitten, and decides to stay. Liz and Sean say their farewell to Ed and make it out into the street. Prepared for more fighting, luck comes their way as the military arrives and opens fire on the zombies. Accompanying them is Yvonne, who says they are evacuating any survivors. Sean and Liz go with them holding hands. Months have passed since the outbreak. Sean wakes up and he is now sharing the flat with Liz, the 2 of them now a couple again. They plan a peaceful day together. The film ends with Sean saying he's gonna pop out to the shed, where the zombie Ed is chained up so they can play video games together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment and subscribe.